Test taking 101, sort of. The first question I want to ask you is, why are tests so stressful? How many people get stressed out on exams? Well, a few of you, all of you. Why are tests so stressful?
You don't want to fail?
You don't want to fail. Okay, what else? Pressure to get good grades, yep.
Time management.
Ah, so there's this time within the test or leading up to the
within
test?
The test.
Ah, so there's time management leading up to it, right? Maybe procrastination on studying, and then there's sort of that whole time management in the test. Good. Oh yeah. What else? Yeah, memory. Is my memory going to work? And what a lot of times does memory get hurt by?
No sleep.
Yeah, that's good. So we're back to time management. So no sleep. What else does it really mess up? Your memory is messed up by what?
Not eating.
Yep, so not eating, that's good.
Just general anxiety.
Just general anxiety, yep. Okay. Yep. Anything else about tests that stress you out, the reason? A lot of this bumps into that it is an evaluation. Okay? That's how we've been taught through our culture, that every test we take is high stakes and it's evaluation of you. And sometimes that anxiety gets so spun up that if I don't pass this test, I'm going to flunk this test. And if I don't flunk, and if I flunk it, oh my God, then I'm going to flunk out of school. And if I flunk out of school, then I'm not going to get a good job. And then I'm going to, and it goes on and on and on until finally, oh my God, if I don't get an A in this test, I'm going to be a bag lady in Boston. That's the cycle of anxiety that sometimes can get pushed because it's seen as an evaluation of not just what you've learned, but also who you are as a learner, who you are as a person, who you are as somebody who's even going to make it through Mount Holyoke College. Okay? And our culture really reinforces a lot of that. And a lot of times what happens is the course is really set up so it says evaluation right on it. So the professors are using this in a way to evaluate you to get a grade, right? So what I would like to first say to you is try to build in other perspectives around what the test really is, okay? You're never going to get away from the idea that it's an evaluation. It's just not going to happen. Our culture is too embedded in all that stuff. But if you can start thinking about using a test more in terms of feedback, of using it to see what knowledge do I know, what stuff do I really need to work on, maybe what skills aren't working for me. If you can see grades as secondary to the feedback that you're getting and the professor is getting, whether you're learning the material or not. Or whether you're improving, right? So if you get a certain grade in the first exam, how are you going to improve on the second exam to show the professor that you know the material better, that you know the material more in depth, that you understand it better? That's less pressurizing than, oh my God, I got a C, and now I gotta really bring up the pace because the professor is going to be looking at me, and I gotta get a B, I gotta get an A. And it really starts that whole anxiety. And what we're going to do is, at the end of this, we're going to really look at how to bring some of that anxiety down. But the first thing that you want to try to do is change your perspective on how you view tests and exams. See them as feedback. Okay? And really try to reinforce that in your head. This is feedback. This is going to give me and the professor information on whether I know the material or not. And that's important to know, okay? So that's what we're going to be looking at right now. So what I'd like you to do is pull out the handout that says using tests as feedback. In my work here as a dean, I've had so many students coming in and sitting down and just crying and crying because they didn't perform the way they really wanted to on an exam. Okay? And after I talk to them about exams being maybe a feedback instead of evaluation, I say, so how are you going to study differently? And so many times they would say, well, I'm going to study more. I read my textbook 3 times, I'm going to read it 4. I went over my notes 6 times, I'm going to do it 8 times. You know? Well, that may not be the best strategy. You may really need a different strategy to really learn the material better. Not to get a better grade, let's put that aside, but just to learn the material better, you may need different strategies, okay? And so what I like to do is start at the end, which is really the beginning, is looking at a test and using it as feedback. So if you take a look at the handout, basically it has a number of questions that you want to ask. So basically what you do is you get out your exam, and you go down, and wherever you've lost, 2 or 3 points, you say to yourself, okay, those 3 points, the reason I lost those 3 points is because of this. Now, is it because I didn't have the material in my notes? And if it's that, then you put 3 points on that column, or that row. I didn't study it. No, I studied it. Studied it but couldn't remember it. Oh, maybe that's the case, so maybe you put 3 points there. You didn't know the terminology or the vocabulary, so maybe you put points there. Didn't know the broad concept. Sometimes that's a biggie. Couldn't apply what I knew to the problem presented. That's a real toughie, and sometimes that's really what students are struggling with. Couldn't understand the question, misread the question, didn't have time to really do the question, you jumped to conclusion, you used the right formula or concept but calculated wrong, okay? So, and sometimes you put 3 points down for different things, like, oh, I didn't know the terminology, but I also really jumped to the conclusion on that one too. So you put 3 points on both rows, okay? And what that'll do is, maybe that'll give you a pattern of why you didn't learn the material at the level of which you were expecting and the professor was expecting, okay? So that's the first step.